My kids love and are pretty darn good at cooking. They were raised in the kitchen, sitting on the counter, putting their finger in the batter. Yes, my kids did eat raw eggs, licking the beater. Every Christmas, I'd block a day on the calendar, and everyone would gravitate to the kitchen and spend the day baking beautiful goodness of goodies. Philip made the pecan tarts. Jacob made pistachio thumbprint cookies. Megan was always rolling out Mexican wedding cookies. And Morgan, she directed and made everything else. She really was the master baker in our home. And even now, when we gather, she brings all the pies. Her birthday is on Pie Day, so go figure. Oh, and me? I made the divinity and the potato pinwheels and probably other things. We all offered our creative expertise each year decorating sugar cookies. And even to this day, my kids host cookie decorating parties for their friends and other family. So, what is it about baking? The aromas, the love that is expressed, the time and commitment? You might be wondering at this point, or your mouth may be watering. Misty, what does all this baking talk have to do with this podcast? Well, grab your oven mitts because today's episode is hot, hot, hot. And our guest does share that same extravagant, expressive love that comes from baking. Today's guest, friend, you're in for a real treat. Hey there, my marvelous mom. I'm Misty Hughes, host of Mom to Mom Mentoring, where we are cooking up something sweet for you to enjoy today. I'm your dream champion, your celebration coach, and your gratitude guide. I help busy, kingdom minded moms who are feeling overwhelmed, spiritually disconnected, or just stuck in survival mode rediscover their God given identity, align their lives with what matters most, live powerfully, lead with purpose, and love with passion. And if you're ready to align your life with what truly matters, join me for a free monthly noontime nourishment masterclass. Because, Mom, you don't need more on your plate. You need more of what fills your heart. Every month, we will explore a new theme that helps busy, kingdom minded mamas like you live in alignment with what matters most. Grab your seat at momtomommentoring.com/align. Oh, and we're going to meet on the fourth Thursday of every month. Now, I would like for you to imagine with me walking into a kitchen filled with cookie dough, laughter, sprinkles, sparkles, and a whole lot of heart. That's where you'll find Lauren Jacobs, also known as the Cheerful Baker, cookie decorating expert, creative entrepreneur, published children's author, and a mama on a mission. She's been on Food Network's Christmas Cookie Challenge, featured in several national magazines, and even joined a professional choir because her son encouraged her to follow her dreams too. But the sweetest part of Lauren's story, it all started with some flour, frosting, and a whole lot of faith as she walked through a tough road with her son's dyslexia diagnosis. What began as a stress reliever turned into a passion and then a purpose. Now, if you're ready, let's get into the kitchen and the heart of the Cheerful Baker herself. Lauren, your brand is the Cheerful Baker, and while your cookies are stunning, it is clear that your real secret ingredient is joy. Many of us are searching for happiness, but we're created for joy, and we think happiness is the answer. How has joy, not just that surface happiness, but deep, sustaining joy, shaped the way you show up in the kitchen with your family and in your business?
I like to try and spread joy. I tell people all the time, I'm not always happy, but I'm always filled with joy, and there's a difference. I think happiness is a momentary feeling. Joy is something that you have when you have a relationship with Christ. In fact, it was the coolest thing. I was on the Christmas cookie challenge several years ago on the Food Network. And a friend of mine said, Lauren, you're just going to talk about Jesus. At the end, the producer said to me, Lauren, we see something in you that we don't see in other people. I'm like, "What?" He said, you're just so happy. And I said, well, you're seeing Jesus in me. And that was one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had.
We are supposed to look different
Right.
in the world. That's beautiful that he recognized that, or she, and
Yeah.
you got to give God glory for that. You didn't start out as the cheerful baker. You had a journey into what you do and how you express your creativity now. And Lauren, you've even said that cookie decorating was never the plan. It was a coping mechanism. Can you take us back to that moment where sugar and sprinkles collided with stress and became something healing for you?
So the short version of the very long story, Misty, was I have 2 wonderful children, and my oldest son had a lot of difficulties when he was young in school. He has dyslexia, and to say that he struggled in school was an understatement. And so I am that person who is happy almost all the time. During this time in my life, I was not happy. I was discouraged, I was frustrated, I was sad, and I needed an outlet. And for me, that became cookie decorating. My kids went to a small private school that was part homeschool and part at home school. And I was a room mom. And so I wanted to take cookies into my kids' class. I'd always loved art. And so I thought, I see these cute cookies. I'm artistic. I can do it. Well, it wasn't quite as easy as it looks, but I enjoyed the process, and the more I did it, the more I realized it became my lifeline to happiness. As melodramatic as that sounds, it is so true. It enabled me to sit and do something that was gonna bring other people joy because everybody loves cookies. It let me get out of my head, it let me focus on something that was creative. And it really helped me through a very, very tough time. And here it is a decade later, and I can honestly say I still look forward to decorating cookies today as much as I did when I started. That is kind of the short version of the long cookie journey, but it's brought me so many wonderful things. I mean, it's been a platform to share my son's story. I've been featured on the Food Network. I've been in magazines, and all those things are wonderful. But the individual people that I've met that I've been able to share my story with because of my success in cookie decorating is really what it's all about.
I teach and speak about the power of gratitude. And when you said the cookie decorating, it wasn't just an outlet for you. You said everybody loves cookies. And in the midst of the sadness and the hard, it was a way that you were able to give to others. And I think that is what propels us oftentimes out of that darkness and despair. And I'm reminded of Isaiah 58. It says, "This is the fast that God chooses to clothe the naked, to house the homeless poor, to care for the oppressed." And he says, "Then my light will break before for you like the dawn." We sit in this place where we're waiting. God, why aren't you showing up? And he says, if you do these acts of service, if you love others with the love that I've loved you with, then you're going to experience the fullness of my joy. So it just sounds like that's not just your story. That's your son's story as well.
Yes, absolutely. The best thing you can do for yourself when you're struggling is do something for someone else.
You're still doing that.
I am. I am.
So, how did you come up with the name, The Cheerful Baker?
I'm so glad you asked me that question because that's my favorite question to answer. My brother's a minister, and during the pandemic, when we were all stuck at home, he was doing online sermons. And my name was Lauren's Custom Cookies. And he did a sermon that said, "We're all going to be changed in some way by this situation. How can we be changed for the better?" And the more I thought about that, I thought, I need to tell more people about God. And like I said, that's always been very hard for me. I just never felt comfortable discussing that with someone that I did not know. There's a verse in the Bible that says, "A joyful heart makes a cheerful face." And I thought, that's me. I'm joyful. And I'm going to be the cheerful baker because then when people ask me, "Where did you get your name?" It's a great lead in. And I couldn't believe, Misty, that there was not a cheerful baker. I mean, I was shocked. I immediately changed my name. It's one of the best things I've ever done.
You mentioned your son and the difficult time. How did you learn about dyslexia and his struggles and what that did to your family?
Well, it was very hard, and he started to struggle in kindergarten. I thought, "He's in kindergarten, leave him alone, he'll be fine." Then he goes to 1st grade, and they wanna hold him back because he can't add, and, of course, I got angry because that's what we do a lot as parents, so we changed schools. He was doing great, and I thought, "He's fine." He had an incredible teacher who worked with him a lot. In 3rd grade, we think everything's fine. I go in to ask the teacher the most simple question, and she sat down and she said, "Lauren, we really are worried about your son." Well, I just burst into tears, and he makes me wanna cry now. We took him and had testing done, and they said, "We see signs, little things, but we really think he's fine." I took him to a football game. While we were there, I said, "Wouldn't it be fun if you went to college here one day? Because I went here and your grandfather went here," and he looked at me with these precious little eyes and he said, "I could never do it." And I thought, "Oh my gosh, he's already given up on himself." I came home and I told my husband, I said, "We're taking him out of school." Just felt like I needed to do something. We homeschooled him for a couple of years, which was so great. But then he wanted to go back to school, just started to spiral downward. I mean, he struggled and struggled. He was in 6th grade. We took him to someone that was a true dyslexia specialist. Dyslexia can kind of be a big umbrella. Some of his intellect was very high. Things that he could do were off the charts. He has an incredible memory and he had memorized all of the words. And then others he really struggled with. He could not do the months of the year. We did intensive brain training. We sent him to 4 different schools to try and get him the help that he needed. I mean, we did everything. And he became this depressed kid. We didn't think he was gonna graduate from high school. One day, out of the blue, he said, "I think I wanna go on a mission trip." I about fainted, but yet he is one of the most compassionate human beings you will ever meet. He said, "I wanna start my life over," and I feel like that's a great way to start. So that was God, because that was a miracle. So he went to Honduras for 8 weeks, and he came back a completely different kid. And he said, "I think I wanna go to college." And then he said, "I think I wanna be a police officer because I wanna help people." So he's still in college, and it's hard for him, but he can advocate for himself and he gets help, and he's doing great. I love to share his story because, when you're in the midst of that as a parent or especially as the child, you
Mm.
just don't even know where to turn. And I feel like his story hopefully gives other people hope who are going through a similar thing.
I noticed you didn't call it a learning disability, you called it a learning difference. There is no negative connotation in that. It's just like what you said, it's a difference. And
Right.
as parents and as educators, it gives us the opportunity to explore and get creative. You've written a book now.
Yes.
What's the book about?
The book is called A Boy Who Lost His Colors because when I think about my son, that's what happened to him. It's
Mm.
about a little boy who was born into a very colorful world, and he reached up and he grabbed blue from the sky, purple from his nana's flower garden, and he had all these colors inside of him. Then he goes to school and he becomes black and white because school's so hard. His mother puts on her fairy wings and her magic wand, and she says, "I'm gonna teach you everything that you need in a different way." By the end of the story, you see him laying in his bed and the rainbow is all along the wall because he's been filled with his colors again. The goal of me writing this book was to have one copy to give to him when he graduated from high school, and it turned into something more. I didn't write it to make money. I wrote it as a gift to my son. And my other son, I have a younger son who's precious, and he's a character in the book too, which is fun.
Oh, wow. That is a incredible legacy to leave both of your kids and actually the world. So w- people can get it on Amazon. I'll leave a link for the book in the show notes because it's a way for parents to really minister to their own kids who might have learning differences. You are a storyteller. You just set out to love other people and God's breathed on them and said, "Nope, there's more behind it." So, tell me about your younger son and how he navigated that season of hard for your family.
One thing that I think helped is that we homeschooled him. So we were with him a lot, which I think was very, very helpful because it's hard on the siblings when you have to focus a lot of your time and energy on your child who is suffering. They both had different needs. Our oldest son had needs that were more specific to learning. Our younger son had needs that were the needs of a child.
Mentioned some of the challenges for your marriage during the hard season. If you would share about what was difficult for your marriage during that season and how you and your husband made it.
When our oldest was born, we went to the pediatrician and he said, "The best thing you can do for your child is have a strong marriage." And those words really resonated with us. That was great advice. When you're going through something very difficult, at least for me, you want to blame someone. And so I sort of took that out on my husband because I just wanted to be mad at somebody. And I didn't want to be mad at my children. He couldn't do anything right for a lot of years, and he was mad at me because he didn't think that I was handling it like I should. We were just mad. It was a hard season, but we had decided that we were gonna love each other, and we would not stay mad for long. We still went on dates, and we still spent time together, and we went to church every single week, even when we didn't want to. And I think that that's what got us through it. We have the same values. We're a lot different. Like, I run through the house like a crazy person all the time. He's much more steady and quiet, but our core values are the same. And having Jesus in the middle of our marriage, the glue that held us together, we're very lucky because we work together. We both work from home. We get along great. Sometimes when you go through a difficult time, what's the term? Iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
You come out ahead, and that's definitely been the case for us.
Yeah. Yeah. One time I was walking and thinking about that verse because it felt like there was a lot of sharpening going on. And I was like, oh, that process of iron sharpening iron, we say it and we claim it. There's a lot of friction that's going on. A lot of sparks are flying when iron is sharpening iron. I get
Yeah,
it.
and I think especially when you're a younger, you have to realize that there is ebb and flow, and some days you're gonna love your spouse so much, and the next day you're just not gonna wanna have anything to do with them. That's life. and you have to just stick to it.
You started baking cookies during a difficult season. How did baking cookies transition to a business?
Whenever my children were a little bit older, and my oldest was in high school and my youngest was in middle school, I decided that I wanted to be home full time because you think that that's important when your kids are little. It's more important when they're older because you want to have those opportunities to find out what's going on in their life. I wanted to be home when my kids got home with a snack because that's when my kids would talk to me. So I had been making cookies and working my little part-time job at the school. When I was thinking about coming home, I thought, okay, I want to replace my income because my husband is frugal and I just wanted to have my own little stash, of spending money. I thought, how many cookies would I need to make to sell in order to stay home? It was more cookies than I wanted to make. Then I thought, I know how to teach classes. Maybe I could teach cookie decorating classes. So I made this little plan and I worked at that plan for almost a year. And then when I was making the same amount of money, I thought, bye bye, I'm ready to be my own boss. And so my husband was very supportive. I was posting all the time on Instagram, and someone from the Food Network sent me a message in my DMs and said, have you ever considered being on the Food Network Christmas Cookie Challenge? We would love to talk to you. And I thought, who is pranking me? Somebody's pranking me. And thankfully, I said, "Let's talk." I was not the least bit professional because I thought that it was a joke. And she said, "Lauren, you're a lot of fun. I'm gonna submit your name." And I'm like, "Okay, ha ha." So the next thing I know, I get this super professional email from the Food Network. And so I ended up on the Christmas cookie challenge. So I thought, how can I harness this wonderful 15 minutes of fame? I love teaching others. I know how to make cookie cutters. I know how to draw and I know how to make cookies. Maybe I do a subscription box and teach people all over the United States to do what I do because the Food Network gave me the platform to be able to reach into the homes of people all over. So that's how that happened. That's what I do now. I have a subscription box and it's called the Cheerful Box. And if you want to relieve some stress in your own life, you can get a box of cookie cutters and you can watch me do it step by step on video and follow along. And I've been doing that for 3 years and I absolutely love it because I love hearing the stories of people's lives that have been transformed similar to mine through cookie decorating.
So, what a unique little twist. You are literally empowering people to do this in their home, to
Yes.
joy-filled moments with themselves or with others, and then have something to give. Oh
Yes.
my goodness. That is so fun. So do we subscribe and then get a new box every month? How does it work?
Yes, but you can also buy a one-time box. Go to cheerfulbaker.com. There's information. It's called the Cheerful Box, and there's a different theme every month. You get 6 large cookie cutters, 3 minis, a stencil, a a bag to hold your cookie cutters with a label on it so you can keep them organized. You get a supply list with all the colors and everything you need, and then you get the link to a video like a mentor. I'm a cookie mentor. I just came
You
up with that right now.
you are my cookie mom mentor friend. I just got for my granddaughters a subscription box. When that runs out, would this be something that I could get for them? Because they love to cook.
Yes. In fact, I had a new subscriber and she told me that it was the date she had with her adult daughter every month.
I had 4, and they all live in different parts of the country. One of my daughters, who's super creative, says, "Ah, we need to have a once a month cooking night." So we all take turns. One person comes up with the recipe and they send everybody the list of ingredients. And then we get on Zoom together and we all just cook and laugh for about 2 hours, and I'm thinking the cookie thing would be for the holidays. I can't wait to share it with my family. I always like to leave our moms with one thing. If you were sitting with a younger Lauren, maybe right at the onset of her starting this hard journey, what is one thing from you that she would take and treasure in her heart?
I would think it's very important to have see, this is gonna make me cry. It's really important to have a good friend during this time, somebody that's outside of your family that can listen to you and pray with you and give you guidance, and I had that, and I still have that, and you asking me that question makes me really thankful. Find somebody that you can talk to and cry with and pray with, because it's a hard journey, obviously, because 'cause I'm crying now, and it was a long time ago.
That's beautiful. I really love your tenderness, your vulnerability, your honesty, and that is a powerful message for busy, busy moms.
Yes.
So thank you for sharing that. And they hear the value of it in your voice. So thank you, Lauren, for sharing your story. I've just really had a lot of fun and been inspired and learned a great deal from you.
I really appreciate you having me.
You have a great story. It's important to tell, and you tell it in a way that gives women hope.
That means a lot to me because that's what I want the story to be.
Not only do you share a story, but then you give people opportunity to step into their own story.
I've loved being on here. It just makes me happy to be able to share the story, and if the hell literally that we went through inspires someone else, then that it'll be worth it.
As we wrap up today's sweet episode, I'm reminded of just how powerful it is when we discover what brings us joy, define what truly matters, and develop the courage to follow it, just like Lauren has. Her story is a shining example of how passion and purpose can rise from even the messiest moments. And Mom, that's exactly what our Noontime Nourishment Masterclass is all about, helping you align your life with your deepest values so you too can live powerfully, lead with purpose, and love with passion. So, Marvelous Mom, don't wait. Join us at the next Noontime Nourishment Masterclass because this is your season to shine brightly. Burn out. Head to the link in the show notes. You can sign up and invest in the woman that God created you to be. If today's episode inspired you, do me a sweet favor. Share it with a friend who needs some encouragement and joy. And if you loved it, please leave a 5-star review. It helps more moms find the hope, humor, and the heart that they're craving. Thanks for spending time with me and Lauren today on Mom to Mom Mentoring. Keep showing up, keep shining, and remember, when you shine, you give others permission to shine too.